My favorite way to fall asleep at night with ASMR is with my sleep phones. You can purchase your own pair with my affiliate link down in my description box. It would also greatly support this channel. For more about sleep phones, stay tuned to the end of this video. I hope you enjoy. Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be continuing our read through of this book, History of the World, Map by Map. And if you're new to this series or my channel, welcome. Good to see you. In this series, we have a little bit of fun because normally when I read from books, I read them in advance and rehearse them. Not so for this one. I'm going in blind. The only thing I have read is the title of each map so that I can, make these themed videos. And tonight's theme is maps, as you've read, maps about World War I. So yeah, it's going to be unscripted, off the cuff, just saying whatever comes to my mind as we read these little facts about World War I. Also, I'm doing this from my new top-down shot. Since we're more than halfway through this book, it's getting really heavy to hold up to my camera at its normal angle. So we're doing the top-down, so there won't be as much sliding around of the maps. They should just be stationary. I'm checking the viewfinder. That should be good, yeah. So I can just point to everything and not have to worry about shuffling the book around because it's getting really hard to do that the deeper we go into this book. So, starting off, World War I. The first box says Early German Advances 1914. The German plan, conceived by military strategist Alfred von Holy moly Schliff. Hold on. There's a flaw to this top down now because now I need to bring this closer. Maybe that helps too. Schlieffen, Alfred von Schlieffen in 1905. Wow. 1905. Was for a rapid march through Belgium to defeat France, then to turn eastward to Russia. However, Russia mobilized more quickly than anticipated. Now fighting on two fronts, the Germans, heading for Paris, were pushed back by the Allies. So these white arrows are the German invasion of France and Belgium in 1914. German invasion of Belgium and France in 1914. Do you see white? They're white. I see yellow. What's the yellow arrow supposed to be? I see yellow. Is that an error? Is it supposed to be yellow and on here it's white? It's gotta be because these are all blank and I see all the yellows on here. So I think that's supposed to be yellow. Yeah, this box is yellow. So these yellow arrows are the Germans invading through Belgium into France. The farthest extent of German advance in 1914 is shown by these triangles, which it's all down here, the Western Front. And major battles are shown by, I assume, yellow swords at this point. You can see them all through here. I just remembered I had a stress stream about filming this video. I had a stress stream that, oh my gosh, just popped in my head that I was trying to get this video filmed quickly for some reason because I was running out of time, and there was I was trying to read all of these battles and I kept finding more and more and more, and then I realized I had to do 10 different maps and they were all massive. I just remembered that. I can't believe I stress streamed about this job. That's so funny. But yes, moving on to Stalemate and Trench Warfare 1915 to 1917. By Christmas 1914, the two opposing factions were at a stalemate and dug in along 400 miles or 645 kilometers of zigzag trench lines stretching from the Belgian coast down to the Swiss border. Along the Western Front, troops fought a series of brutal battles that gained little territory. No one had anticipated this static war. So Germans retreat to the Hindenburg Line in 1917. That's shown by this red dotted line, which is right here. All the way down. And major battles at this point are red swords, and you can see them all up there. Yeah, I read All Quiet on the Western Front. It was a very haunting book. I tried to, so here's what I did. I love the Oscars, right? That's my other big passion is film history. I wanted to read all of the books that are associated with Best Picture winners, like movies that are based on the book. So I did it at random. My first one was All Quiet on the Western Front, and I devoured it. It was so good. It was so interesting. It was so heavy, right? And the film is just a masterpiece. Oh my gosh, it is so good. But then my next book on my randomizer was 12 Years a Slave, and I had like a breakdown reading that. That was such a hard read. I was like, scrap this project. I can't handle that clearly. But I'm so glad I read All Quiet on the Western Front. It was such a powerful story and a beautiful film. Oh my gosh, not the new one. The new one is a whole other different level of deep and powerful film about war. The 1931 is just a masterpiece, I think. But moving on to Allied Victory 1918. We're just zipping through World War I. Zipping through it. By spring 1917, the Allied forces were exhausted, but U.S. troops were on the way. The Germans launched a surprise attack along the Western Front, but the Allies pushed back. As the exhausted German troops struggled, the Allies began a massive 100-day offensive, breaching the heavily fortified Hindenburg Line. Germany signed an armistice on November 11th, 1918. I just remember another good film is called 1917. That's another masterpiece of a film. Oh my gosh, it's so raw. It makes you really feel like you were there in World War I. But moving on. German offensive, March through June 1918, is these blue triangles. So the German offensive is over here. There we go. They never really made much headway over here, did they? These lines are almost overlapping the whole time. The Allied counterattack is these blue arrows, so they're pushing in, pushing in, pushing in. All through here. The line at armistice, November 11th, 1918, is this blue line here. You can see how far back the Germans were pushed. And major battles at this time are the blue swords. Blue swords there. It looks like there's one more box, but it's with a different map. So let's read all the little boxes before we read this map. Why not? Let's see what we've got here. And again, just going in random order because I haven't read this. I don't know what order we're supposed to go in. I'm going to start over here. It says September 6th through 12th, 1914. Allies defeat Germany at the First Battle of the Marne, preventing a German advance on Paris. Both sides dig in, marking the start of trench warfare. It's this battle here. March through August 1918. German forces attempt to break the stalemate on the Western Front by launching a series of offensives known as the Spring Offensive, including an attack on Rheims. There's Rheims right there. July through November 1916. British and French forces launch a major offensive at the Somme. Tanks are used for the first time. There's the Somme right there. August 26, 1914. Britain stages a rear guard action, suffering 7,812 casualties, but it delays the German advance on Paris. That's here. What does that say? Cateau? Le Cateau? I'm not sure. April through May 1915, fighting centers on the British-held town of Ypres. At the Second Battle of Ypres, Germans use chlorine gas for the first time. That sounds awful. And the first use of chemical warfare is in this war. July through November 1917, 325,000 Allied troops and 260,000 Germans die at the Battle of, oh my goodness, that's a word, Passchendaele? I've never heard of this battle, oh my goodness. Passchendaele? It looks a little Dutch to me, so I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Only 5 miles or 8 kilometers of land is gained. All that bloodshed for 5 miles. My goodness. August 23rd, 1914, British land in France and meet the advancing German army at Mons. British are forced back into the river Marne. Right there. August 4th, 1914, the first battle of the war takes place with the German attack on the Belgian city of Liège. The attack brings the British Empire into the war. There's Liège. In winter 1916, the Germans build the Hindenburg Line, a vast system of defenses 87 miles or 140 kilometers long. And that's that dotted red line that we pointed out before. And right here it says February to December 1916, the 300-day Battle of Verdun sees huge losses on both sides. And there's Verdun. What a devastating war, right? It's hard to wrap our minds around it in this day and age with such modern warfare. You know, we have like drones and things, and very heavy like machines that do most of the fighting. Here, you know, you have some advanced machines, but it was still very much hand-to-hand, face-to-face combat. Not like we have nowadays. I mean, there is face-to-face, but not like you're not fighting like a line of soldiers versus a line of soldiers. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm going to read this next map. It says War of Movement, 1914 to 1917. Unlike the stalemate experienced on the Western Front, the Eastern Front was the war everyone had anticipated, with large armies making significant breakthroughs. The German and Austro-Hungarian forces faced Russia and its allies, including Serbia, along a front that extended more than 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers. Russia's greatest success was under General Alexei Brusilov. From June to September 1916, he broke Austria-Hungary's lines on the southwestern front. Austria never truly recovered. So let's see this map, the Eastern Front. Russian advances in 1914 are purple arrows. There they go. There to Austria-Hungary. The Russian front line, 1914 to 1915, is these purple triangles right here. And the Brusilov offensive of 1916 is this big purple arrow. Now hold on a second. Okay, I think that's these arrows. These shades of purple are awfully close to each other. That was very confusing. I believe this was 1914 and this is 1916. Judging by the shades of purple there. Major battles are yellow swords, and you can see them all throughout. Looks like mostly Poland today. German landings, 1917, 1918, are pink arrows. So there they go, up there in Finland. And the limit of Central Power advances from 1915 to 1916 are pink triangles. So that's all right here. And the armistice line of December 1917 is this bright yellow line here. Goodness. This says the tide turns 1916 to 1918. Despite early Russian success, by the end of 1916, Germany had gained control of the Eastern Front. The Russian forces were large, but they were disorganized. By 1917, their morale was crumbling, and the October Revolution caused major upheaval. Russia signed an armistice in December and withdrew from the war. So German offenses into Russia of 1918 are these kind of green, green arrows. They're going pew, there, pew, pew, down to the Crimea. Anymore? No, just here into Ukraine. And then the German penetration into Russia by June 1918 is this line here, up in Finland, down all through here, and right there. Wow. They really gained a lot. I didn't realize how far they'd pushed into Russia. My goodness. Looks like we only have two little boxes here. This says August 1914. 2 Russian armies invade Prussia, but are decisively beaten at the Battle of Tanneburg. Right here. Tanneburg. This island here makes it look like an O. June to September 1916, the Brusilov offensive is Russia's greatest military victory against the Central Powers. Austria-Hungary retreats and is much weakened. That's right. There, yeah, these arrows here. Nice. Yeah, I've never seen an Eastern Front map before. I've only seen Western Fronts. How interesting. Come on. Got a picture of the trenches here. Oh, I can't imagine. Then we have the Wider War, it's called. Let's see what this is about. I'm going to move this over here. There's T.E. Lawrence. War in the Balkans, 1914 to 1918. In July 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war against Serbia. Serbia resisted initially, but it was overrun when Bulgaria sided against them in 1915, and the Serbian forces retreated. The front stabilized roughly around the Greek border, through the intervention of the Allied forces, who landed in Salonika. Romania joined the Allies in 1916, and Greece joined in 1917. So Austrian, Bulgarian, and German forces are pink arrows. Holy moly, look at this mess. Pink arrows here. There's a lot happening here. Retreating Serb forces are the dark blue arrows going this way, retreating. Salonika front is pink triangles. Can you see? Oh my gosh, it's so hard to see it right here amongst all these battles here. Allied offensive is a dotted purple arrow. There we go, dotted purple arrows. And single non-dotted purple arrows are the Anglo-French forces going there and there. My goodness. And then, of course, the major battles, as you can see here, this mess of these pink swords here and up here as well. My goodness, that is the busiest little map ever. That's very hard to read. Number 2 is up here. It says Caucasus Front, 1914 to 1917. The Caucasus Campaign was a series of conflicts between the Ottoman and Russian empires. Russia saw the conquest of the Caucasus Front as an opportunity to capture Constantinople, which is, of course, modern-day Istanbul, as well as to gain possession of Persian oil fields. The Ottomans hoped to regain lost territories. The Turkish army was decimated. So these yellow arrows are the Russian forces heading here into the Ottoman Empire. And the yellow triangles is the Russian-Turkish front as of 1917, which is right here. Just south of the Caucasus, yeah. The Turkish forces are dotted yellow lines, so they're going over here to Baku. Just beelining for Baku. And major battles of this front are the yellow swords, which I only see the one. Any others? I don't see any others. Moving on. Maybe I'll see them eventually. Oh my gosh, my ear itches. Okay. Raid on the Suez Canal, January 26 to February 4th, 1915. The Turkish army advanced through the Sinai Desert to launch an attack on the British-protected Suez Canal in Egypt. The Turkish forces hoped this would cut off Britain's lifeline to India and provoke an Islamic uprising in Egypt against British rule. It failed, but the Turkish threat, it's very hard to read this, it's so far away from me. The Turkish threat tied up thousands of British troops in the area. So major battles, these pink swords, and there it is at the Suez Canal. Boom, there it is. Number 4 is the Gallipoli campaign, very famous. February 17th, 1915 to January 9th, 1916. In February 1915, Allied forces launched a naval operation in the Dardanelles with the aim of capturing Constantinople and forcing the Ottoman Empire out of the war. The operation failed, so in April, French and British forces, assisted by Australians and New Zealanders, landed in Gallipoli. After months of warfare, they withdrew. So Allied forces in this are the blue arrows. You can see them sailing up here from Egypt toward Gallipoli. And there's the battle right there. A very large part of Australia and New Zealand history is fighting here in Gallipoli. Then, we have a no-no word over here. So, YouTube has, they've told me, you can't say these things without getting demonetized. And one of them is this word here. So we always call this the no-no. But you know what I'm talking about, right? It's the Armenian no-no of 1915 to 1922. And we have to read this very carefully now. Claiming that the Armenians in eastern Anatolia were collaborating with Russian forces, the Turks deported the largely Christian community to the south of the country. There were mass no-nos and no-no marches across the Syrian desert to holding camps. Up to 1.5 million Armenians were no-no'd in the no-no. And I'm not making light of it, obviously. We're just trying to skirt around YouTube here. Deportation routes are with these pink arrows. And you can see them getting sent over here, sent over to Aleppo, and then toward Aleppo, out from here, looks like toward there. And Armenian refugee escape routes are the dotted pink arrows. You can see them heading into Armenia there. Now, Turkish viewers out there, don't type your angry comments now, okay? I'm just reading what the book says. I know that Armenians did awful things to Turkish peoples prior to this. This is history, okay? I'm American. We've done some awful things to people in our country, to the native people of our land. I know that too. If you say, oh, you blah, blah, blah. I've heard it all, okay? Just calm down. I'm just reading what the map says. Let's move on to the British campaigns, 1916 to 1918. After heavy Allied defeats in the Middle East, the tide began to turn. The 1916 Arab Revolt, an uprising against the Ottomans, helped push the Turks out of much of the Arabian Peninsula. Gaza fell in November 1917 and Jerusalem in December. British and Arab what is that? Okay, there's just a misprint. British and Arab armies advanced, capturing the cities of Damascus and Aleppo in October 1918. So Allied forces in this campaign are green. They're heading up to Gaza, to Damascus, to Homs, and Aleppo. And also over here, out of Basra, to Kirkuk, to Mosul, and just up here into Syria in general, I suppose. The area of the Arab Revolt is highlighted in green, so you can see all up here, down into, it's now Saudi Arabia, you can see Medina right there. And the Turkish forces are dotted green lines, which are up here. Is that it? I don't see any others. All right. I guess that's all they did. And then we have the T.E. Lawrence campaigns, 1916 to 1918. Another great movie, Lawrence of Arabia. It is like 50 million hours long, so prepare for that, but it's a beautiful film. Beautiful film. The tactical guidance of T.E. Lawrence ensured the success of the Arab revolt. He directed a guerrilla campaign using sabotage to blow up the Hejaz Railway, a vital Turkish supply route, and took the fort at Aqaba. His forces joined General Sir Edmund Allenby in 1918, playing a crucial role in capturing Ottoman territory. Yeah, so at the film, Lawrence of Arabia, the film, they wanted to film in the areas where this all happened. So they went to the spot where this railway was blown up, and all of the debris from that attack was still there. So they were filming around the actual debris of this railway explosion that the actual T.E. Lawrence helped commit. It's, oh my gosh, amazing, right? Pretty epic. It's a great film. Allied forces under T.E. Lawrence is this brownish arrow. So they're coming up to Aqaba. Very famous part of the movie when they're walking through the desert because they can't sail into Aqaba because all the forts are pointed this way. So they walked through the Hefuz? I forget what it's called, the barren desert there, into Aqaba, and then up into Homs, to Damascus, to Amman. Turkish forces is this dotted line heading into Aqaba as well. And you can see the Hejaz Railway. Looks like it's right here. Going up there. Interesting. Let's read all the little boxes. Let's start over here this time. This is December 11th, 1917. Edmund Allenby's forces break through at Gaza. Allenby walks through the Jaffa Gate into Jerusalem. January 16th, 1915, Turkish forces launched an attack on the Suez Canal. October 1st, 1918, Edmund Allenby and T.E. Lawrence capture Damascus. Where else? Over here. Mid-September 1918, the Ottomans capture Baku, a city rich in oil. The armistice in November 1918 forces them to withdraw. Well, they tried. They held it for a minute. November 15th, 1914, Turkish forces defeat a Russian battalion at a copper mine south of Batumi. Yes, Batumi. But Russia resumes offensive. Very hard to read that black font against the olive green of the Russian Empire there. There's Batumi on the Black Sea coast, currently in today's Georgia. December 26, 1914, Turkish Third Army is crushed by Russians at the Battle of Sarıkamış. Sarıkamış, right there. I haven't heard of that one. November 7th, 1914, the Turkish forces stop the Russians at Erzurum, there, and in Turkey, but then the Ottoman Empire, of course. And then we head over, oh my gosh, to the Balkans. Hold on, let me bring this over closer to read all of this Balkan mess. Let's start down here where it's easy to read. February to March 1916, British and French battleships launched a major attack but are unable to fight through the narrow strait of the Dardanelles to capture Constantinople. Through there. Alright, October 5th, 1915, British and French forces land at Salonika, but the Bulgarians hold them off. They remain here until September 1918. September 15th, 1918, the Serbian army defeats the Bulgarians, who sign an armistice 2 weeks later. Serbia is liberated by the Allied forces the following month. Then up here says June 28th, 1914. Oh, that starts it all. Heir to the Austrian throne is assassinated by a Bosnian Serb nationalist in Sarajevo. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. And on August 27th, 1916, Romania joins the Allies and is then occupied by German forces. Busy fighting over there in the Balkans. I didn't realize, my goodness, I knew there was fighting. I didn't realize it was so chaotic. My goodness. Then we have the Russian Revolution. Speaking of chaotic, we start up here. The October Revolution of October 1917. When Lenin returned to Russia in fall 1917, having been in hiding in Finland, he urged immediate action. The Red Guards seized control of Petrograd, and on October 26, 1917, guards at the Winter Palace, the seat of the provisional government, willingly surrendered. Power passed to the Bolsheviks, with Lenin establishing a Marxist one-party state after closing down the Russian Constitutional Assembly on February 1918, Constituent Assembly. Towns where the Bolsheviks gained control are these green dots here, and you can see them all over here. That's a lot. They gained a lot of ground, and that's just 1917? My goodness. Wow. Then we have independent republics, 1917 to 1921. The Russian Empire was ethnically diverse, and calls for self-determination had been growing among non-Russian nationalities. After the revolution, Finland, Estonia, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Ukraine declared independence, while Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia formed a short-lived republic. Faced with financial crisis and militarily weak, Ukraine and the Caucasus states were later reabsorbed into the USSR. So countries declaring independence from Russia between 1917 and 1918. You can see there's Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. I thought I listed a bunch more. Ukraine, but is just still red, I guess. All right, and then temporary independence from Russia is, okay, that's it. So Ukraine, Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan. I see now. Temporarily independent, whereas these countries had a lot more success. Russia pulls out of World War I, 1917 to 1918. The new Bolshevik government, led by Lenin, signed an armistice with the Central Powers in December 1917. The terms, which were harsh on Russia, were formalized in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in March 1918. Litovsk in 1918. Russia relinquished control of the Baltic states and Ukraine and was forced to pay 6 billion German marks in reparations. Anger at these losses fueled opposition to the Bolsheviks. So Russian boundary after the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk of 1918 is shown by this line here, going through there, down here, and then I guess going this way. And, oh, that's a tap box. Okay. Interesting. I didn't realize they had to pay that much in reparations. My goodness. Civil war breaks out in 1917 to 1922. Although the Bolsheviks had gained power, they were a minority in Russia. Lenin started the Red Terror, a campaign of intimidation against anyone thought to be a threat to the regime, which was carried out by the new Bolshevik secret police, the Cheka. Meanwhile, a violent civil war broke out between the Bolsheviks, or the Reds, and anti-Bolshevik forces, including the White Army, formed of Tsarist supporters and military officers. Russia's former allies, Britain, France, and the U.S., supported the Whites, fearing the spread of communism. Then down here we have Cossack attack. Say that 10 times fast. 1917 to 1920. The Cossacks, a group who formed self-governing communities, rose to fight against the Bolsheviks, and many anti-Bolsheviks fled to join them in southern Russia. United with the Whites, the Cossacks put the Bolsheviks on the defensive along the southern front. wrecking their lines of communication, laying siege to the port city of Tsaritsyn from 1918 to 1920, and briefly occupying the city of Voronezh in September 1919. So the Don Cossacks are shown by the dark green. You can see them right here. And the Kuban Cossacks are shown right here. Interesting. Then we have Bolshevik advances 1917 to 1922. Although the Whites had the support of many countries outside of Russia, the Bolsheviks had a brilliant tactical leader in Leon Trotsky and were better organized. Crucially, they had control of the industrial cities of Moscow and Petrograd, which included much of Russia's railroad network. When the Civil War ended in October 1922, the Bolsheviks had total control of Russia. So Bolshevik battles are shown by yellow swords. You can see them over here. I'm sure there's more. No, but there's definitely a lot of arrows. Oh, there's some over here. Bolshevik territories 1919. Oh, the yellow. Oh, okay. We're getting to... What are the yellow arrows? What is that supposed to be? I'm not sure. But here's the Bolshevik territory. You can see here. Going all over there. What are these yellow arrows? They're all over the place. They're hopping and bopping all the way to Vladivostok. Okay, Bolshevik forces. That's what I thought. White army forces are obviously white. So yeah, the Bolsheviks were going, what are the blues? The Allies. Heading this way. Through Ulaanbaatar to Omsk. And stopping right there. I guess we'll read more about that. Let's read this last box before I get distracted by maps. USSR founded December 1922. After the Civil War, the country was in tatters. Around 6 million peasants had died from famine between 1921 and 1922, and there was rioting in many cities. Lenin suffered a stroke in May 1922. In December 1922, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR, was established based on one-party rule. Lenin died in 1924, worried about political infighting in his party. His legacy, however, was the world's first socialist state. And of course, all this red was the USSR in 1922. All of this here, looking almost like the border of Russia today, at least in the east. A bit different over here with the Caucasus and Ukraine. They'll come back over here later in a couple decades. But yeah, 1922. Wow. Massive. Russia's just insanely big, isn't it? It's way too big. But yeah, let's read the boxes. Let's start in Vladivostok. January 1919. Troops from allied nations are sent to fight with the Whites, largely in Siberia, through the city of Vladivostok. In May 19... Oh, look at that. The Allies are coming in. May 1918, Allied forces guard the Trans-Siberian Railway to protect their war supplies from Bolshevik attacks and to keep the railway running. You can see the railroad right there. Going all the way to Moscow. Boom. Trans-Siberian Railroad. Let's see, over here it says August 1918, Allied forces offer support to the leader of the White Army, Admiral Alexander Kolchak, who sets up his government in Omsk. July 16th to 17th, 1918, Tsar Nicholas II is shot by the Bolsheviks, along with his wife, 5 children, and 4 royal staff members there in Ekaterinburg. Like one of the more tragic events of this, right? March 1918, Russia moves the state capital to Moscow from Petrograd after German soldiers marched through Russia virtually unopposed. There's Moscow, still the capital today. February 1919 to October 1920, With growing Bolshevik success in the Civil War, Lenin seeks to gain back lost territory in Poland. After initial success, the Bolsheviks are defeated at the Battle of Warsaw. You can see right there. They're hopping over to Warsaw. December 18th, 1918. France, an ally of the Whites, enters the Civil War by sending troops to Odessa. Right there is that battle. April 8th, 1919. Allied forces lose Odessa to the Red Army. Well, they tried. They are going in. And it's Sevastopol. November 7th to 17th, 1920. The Siege of Perekop leads to another Red victory, and the Red Army occupy the Crimea. Crimea is right here. April 10th to 13th, 1918, at the Battle of Holy Moly Trinidad. That name's too long. The first major battle between the two armies. The commander of the White Army is killed in combat. Right there. Why can't they just say Krasnodar? I guess it wasn't called that then. Today's Krasnodar. Then it was Trinidad. I like Krasnodar better. It's much more succinct. What a busy map. Goodness. Wow. I mean, this is all stuff I knew, but seeing it laid out on a map is like, this was such a massive war effort across the entirety of Russia and beyond. Like, my goodness. What a devastating civil war this was. My goodness. We have one more map. The aftermath of the Great War. Let's see. Number 1 is over here. Russia lost. Now it says Russian losses 1918 to 1922. The Bolshevik regime could not hold on to its new empire. In the 1918 treaty, oh, here we go again. Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Russia reorganizes the independence of the Baltic states, Ukraine, Georgia, and Finland. Ukraine and Georgia both joined the USSR in 1922, and the Baltic states did not achieve true independence until the 1920s. So the Russian border in 1918 is this blue line here. You can see over there. Oh, sorry, we've got Estonia. We got there through Poland. Bessarabia, which is Moldova today, down to the Crimea, along the Black Sea, and then around the Caucasus. Number 2 is this box over here. The British and French Mandates, 1920 to 1946. The Treaty of Sèvres, signed in August 1920, divided parts of the defeated Ottoman Empire into British and French control. The Ottoman government accepted the treaty. However, it was rejected by Turkish nationalists, say that 10 times fast, led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who was determined to drive out foreign armies. In Egypt, which was a British protectorate, the diminishing British military presence after the war allowed the nationalist Wafd Party to launch a revolution. Limited independence was gained in February 1922. So the French mandate is dark green, which I guess is this color, because it's Syria and Lebanon for the most part. And the British mandate is this lighter green, which we see Palestine, Transjordan, and Iraq for the most part. And of course, British protectorate is Egypt. And of course, Turkey's not having that. Let's read about it. Turkey. 1922 to 1923. The Turkish War of Independence from 1919 to 1922 saw Ataturk and a rebel army fight against the Ottoman Sultan and the proxies of the Allied forces. Following the nationalists' victory, a new government was set up in Ankara, and the Treaty of Sèvres was abandoned. The Treaty of Lausanne of 1923 legitimized the newly independent Turkish Republic and marked the end of the Ottoman Empire. So Turkey, after the Treaty of Sèvres, is this reddish color. I only see 2 colors, and there's supposed to be 3 in this box. Okay, hold on. Annexed by Turkey is light orange. I cannot tell the difference between these two colors. Is it just me? My goodness, I'm looking at it in the light. Okay, I think this color is this here. The Treaty of Sèvres is all this. And this must be restored to Turkey because that looks more like it. You've got Turkish Armenia, you've got Thrace, you've got Smyrna there. So annexed by Turkey 1921. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. No idea. We're going to move on from that. I'm very confused by that. Maybe it's another miscolor, or maybe I'm just a dummy and I don't see it. Anyway, let's talk about Palestine, 1922 to 1947. In 1922, the British were formally given the mandate to govern the region, having pledged to establish a home for Jews in Palestine. The Arabs rose up against the British, and many were killed in the Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939. The influx of Jewish refugees from Nazi-occupied territories and the suggestion from the United Nations that Palestine be divided into Arab and Jewish states exacerbated tensions. Civil war broke out in 1947. Mandatory Palestine of 1922 is down here. You can see. Boom, boom, boom. And that's a whole can of worms that's still being dealt with today, isn't it? And I don't want to hear comments about that either. We all have opinions on it. We all know. We all agree or disagree. You don't need to go further. Hopefully you're asleep by now, so you're not going to leave any rah-rah comments. We know it's a whole thing, isn't it? Collapse and division of Austria-Hungary, 1918 to 1923. After the Habsburg regime collapsed in 1918, new national states were created in Austria, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. Habsburg territories were also absorbed by the new states of Poland and Yugoslavia. The Austrian army was restricted and reparations imposed, and Hungary lost 2/3 of its old land, principally to Yugoslavia and Romania. So the Austria-Hungary border of 1914 is pink, so you can see just how much got divided up. So this was Austria-Hungary prior to World War I. And now you can see there's Austria, there's Hungary, and now there's Czechoslovakia, there's parts of Poland, Yugoslavia is down here. Transylvania, which was a whole can of worms there. But yeah, that's another rah-rah, but not as bad as the other topics. Let's talk about Ireland. 1916 to 1922. The outbreak of World War I interrupted a political crisis in Britain over Ireland's future. The failure to resolve this crisis first caused a wartime insurrection known as the Easter Rising in 1916, and then a war of independence from 1919 to 1921, when Irish separatists fought to establish an independent Irish republic. The partition of Ireland in 1922 into Northern Ireland and the Irish Free State led to further unrest. So the Irish Free State of 1922 is this bright green color, of course. Pretty much the borders of the Republic of Ireland today, I think. I don't think it's any different. And no rah-rahs about that in the comments either. We all know. We know. It's okay. Relax. Just, my goodness, all of these repercussions of World War I still have an effect on us today in so many aspects around the world. Isn't that interesting? Then German losses 1918 to 1919. The terms set out against Germany by the 1919 Treaty of Versailles were punitive. 1/8 of its pre-war territory was lost, including land in Poland, Denmark, Belgium, and France. It was stripped of its colonial possessions, its armed forces were reduced, and its merchant fleet confiscated. Germany was made to pay war reparations, provoking bitter, long-lasting resentment. Yeah, that won't come back to bite you, will it? Of course it will. The German border of 1918 is in purple. So you can see this was Germany as of 1918. Very different from today, isn't it? There's Silesia, which is, I think, part of Czechia today. East Prussia, which must be Poland today, right? Interesting. Let's read all the little boxes. Let's start up here. 1920. Russia recognizes Finnish independence with the Treaty of Tartu. There's Finland up there, all full of lakes. Way too many lakes up there. 1921. Under the Treaty of Riga, Russia pledges to respect Latvia's independence. There's Latvia. In 1920, Estonia is liberated from Russia following the Estonian War of Independence. There's Estonia. I always say how to remember where the Baltic countries are. 1, 2, 3. It's in alphabetical order. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, north to south. Alphabetical. 1923, the borders of Poland are finally settled for now. That'll change very soon. 1922, Ireland is divided into two parts. The 6 mainly Protestant counties of Ulster become Northern Ireland and are subordinate to London. I guess we'll go over here. 1920, a peace treaty is signed between Lithuania and Soviet Russia after the Lithuanian War of Independence. There's Lithuania. 1918, the region of Bessarabia is added to Romania. We just talked about that last week on my channel, talking about Moldova and Transnistria, which I guess is another consequence of World War I in a sense, isn't it? 1918, the Kingdom of the Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes is formed from parts of the old Austro-Hungarian Empire and Serbia. It's renamed Yugoslavia in 1929. Much better name than the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, isn't it? Yugoslavia. 1919, Greece occupies Smyrna, leading to war between Greece and Turkey. That's a whole other thing. I don't think I've had any raw comments about Greece and Turkey in my comments. It's pretty rare. That's like one conflict. Don't leave it. Don't take this invitation to be raw. But I've never had any angry Turks or angry Greeks about one or the other in my comments, I don't think. That's interesting. 1922, the growing popular support of the nationalistic Waft Party prompts Britain to grant Egypt limited independence. There's a bunch over here. Let's see. 1920s, anti-Jewish riots in 1920, 1921, and 1929 reveal the failure of British security forces to maintain order. I can say that again. 1920, the Transjordan region is made into a League of Nations mandate to be administered by Britain. It's Transjordan. Today it's just called Jordan. 1920, in Baghdad, an uprising against the British briefly unites Sunni and Shia Muslims. Whoa. More than 100,000 British and Indian troops are deployed to quell the revolt, and thousands of Arabs are killed. 1915 to 1922, over 1.5 million Armenians living in Turkey are no-noed by the British nationalists. In September 1922, the Turkish army enters Smyrna, setting fires and harming many Armenians and forcing others to leave the city. Yeah. Calm down, Turks, about it. I just have to be careful about that event because YouTube is very sensitive about it. And I'd like this video to be monetized, right? There's a box about the League of Nations. There's Woodrow Wilson, president, can you see? Yeah, president of the United States, who helped form the League of Nations, which would fail in World War II and become the United Nations, which is a lot more successful than that was. And we see some Waft Party members over here in Egypt. Yeah, huge repercussions from World War I. It's once you actually sit back and look at it, it's like, holy moly, the entire world was never the same. All because the Archduke was shot in Sarajevo. Gosh, just the ripple effect. And it's still going to, we're going to go more in this book because of course all of that affects history throughout the 20th century into the 21st century. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Well, it's a lot to absorb, I think. But anyway, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Uh-oh, there's a preview of what's to come. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. 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 This is my pair of sleep phones. Pajamas for your ears. And it's essentially a headband with little speakers in it. So you can pop it on your head and comfortably lay down on your pillow and listen to binaural ASMR as you fall asleep. It's all dusty, but that's good because this is machine washable. You can just pop out the little headphones there and wash this. I guess I have to do that next. Cat hairs all over it. I use this pretty much every night. It's perfect for traveling. And actually, here's a story for you. This is not my original pair of sleep phones. I went and visited one of my best friends, brought my sleep phones with me, and accidentally left it behind. So my friend says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll ship it to you. It's fine." But then she tells me the next day, "Actually, I'm not, because I used it, and I love it, and I'm keeping it, and I just bought you a new pair. I'm sending it to your home." So this is the pair she sent me. My original ones are still with my bestie. She kept it. It's so funny. But I swear by these things. I sleep so well with them. They don't bother me either. I have chronic migraine. I have to be careful with what I put on my head, because if it's too tight or makes me too sweaty, I get a migraine. This has never done that. It's incredibly comfortable. The sound quality is awesome. And I just pass out and sleep so well when I'm wearing these. I can't recommend it enough. So if you would like to get your pair, I have an affiliate link down in the description box. It would very much help out my channel. Don't forget to uninstall Honey before you purchase. And you can get your own pair of sleep phones, pajamas for your ears, and sleep comfortably and sound. They have all sorts of different styles. They have a wireless version. I just have the wire one, just because that was just what I had before she bought me the same pair. But they have all sorts of different kinds for all sorts of different types of people. So be sure to check them out and sleep well.